Hi, I'm joined by Frank Borgese and Chris Graham of Graham and Borgese. Their motto is Debt Relief Made Easy. We're going to talk to them and learn more about their practice areas and what they do to help clients. Gentlemen, please introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been an attorney.
I'm Frank Borgese, and I've been an attorney since 2008.
And my name is Chris Graham, and I've been an attorney since 2003, and I've been practicing and partners with Frank since 2009.
And what are the primary areas of legal service and advice that you give to clients?
We call it consumer law, but it really pertains to anything that may relate to debt issues. So whether you're being harassed by debt collectors, sued by creditors, or dealing with the effects of a judgment, our practice falls within that umbrella.
And how does somebody become aware that they might have a judgment against them or they might need the help of a debt attorney?
You know that. Many times I get calls from people who are actually closing on homes or refinancing their homes. Many times they've had judgments entered against them and they didn't even know about it until their real estate attorney advised them that they had a title issue and that a judgment was entered. And then many other times they either have their wages garnished and they get notice from a sheriff or marshal, or they go to use their bank account and it's frozen.
And typically, what is your initial advice to people when they uncover that, whether it's from an attorney or from their employer that their wages are being garnished? What steps should they take right away?
Well, I think the first thing to do is reach out to an attorney. They'll advise you of the deadlines that you may have and what options you have to resolve the debt issue. But, when dealing with debt issues, it's one of those things you don't want to put off. The more time that passes, your options diminish, and it can be much more difficult to resolve the issue.
And what would you say to someone who says, I'm just going to ignore it, or it's not that big a deal? How do you let them know just how serious an issue it is?
Well, I remember my father always saying that the 5 most dangerous words you can ever say is maybe it will go away. And that's true for most things in life, and especially in the debt-related issues. Many times I get calls from people who had debts when they were in college, and now they're in their 40s or 50s, and judgments were entered without their knowledge, and they last 20 years in New York State, and they grow at 9%. So some of these seemingly smaller, credit card debts, $2,500, $5,000, are now $10,000 or $15,000, and bank accounts are frozen, wages are garnished, and so much time has passed that it's very difficult even to research these debts, and obviously, there's no records or any more like that left.
And are there certain scenarios that force people to go into debt most regularly? What are you seeing? What is causing people to have such serious debt issues?
Everybody has a different backstory, and we actually try to spend a lot of time during our initial consultations learning what it was for that particular person. But you typically see things such as divorce or medical issue, loss of job, even somebody whose income has been decreased. So there's so many different reasons why somebody might go into debt, but they always face the same issues, and that's a judgment enforcement. So regardless of why somebody might go into debt, we are so well versed in how to help resolve those debt issues, whether, again, it's wage garnishment, liens, or frozen bank accounts.
That's very helpful. So help me also understand the process. If I come to you as a client and I have a certain debt that I'd like to be discharged or maybe was applied to me in error, what does the process typically look like, and what is the resolution or goal that you're seeking at the end?
Well, generally, you'd actually first call in and speak to me personally. I do the majority of all the intakes. So first I would ask you questions about the debt, questions about anything that procedurally might have happened in the past, your background, any hardships that you might have, and really what your goals are. So that's something I always ask any prospective client is, in best case scenario, what does that look like for you? What can you afford? What do you think is fair? So basically I take a lot of notes, I do some research, sometimes I'll talk to Frank and we'll discuss the file prior to taking it, and then And then once we have everything kind of, a good proposal, I guess you would call it, we would speak to the client, kind of give them some expectations, kind of give them some ideas of like timing and price and what they could expect to pay. If it's a case of like an order to show cause or something like that, maybe our goal is to get the entire debt wiped out, because maybe it's not your debt, maybe it's identity theft or fraud. So it really depends on the situation. But at that point in time, we then start representation as agreed.
And so if you can find that it's a false debt or a debt that's been incorrectly applied to an individual, your goal there is to get it completely wiped out and to get it corrected so it doesn't show up on an individual's credit report. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, obviously, we try to address the issue for that individual. Mm-hmm. So we have people, as you mentioned, who are being wrongly accused of owing a debt. And for us, we are focused on investigating the collection efforts of the law firm or agency that's handling it. And we look to provide as much evidence as we can that the person is being wrongly accused so that we can stop those collection efforts and clean up somebody's credit.
And separately, if someone does have a legitimate debt, but maybe they've fallen on hard times or are experiencing another economic hardship, the goal there is to get an acceptable payment plan, or get a portion of debt perhaps forgiven. Is that more the strategy when someone has a debt that, yes, is theirs, but needs to be addressed because they're falling behind?
Sure. I think that's the most common thing that we run into. And generally, when I speak to people on our first meeting, we talk about what their ability to pay is. So, and we talk about a little bit about what the principal reduction might be too. And a lot of times people kind of remember a debt but aren't really sure, because a lot of times they're purchased by debt buyers, so they don't really know who this person is that's coming after them at this point. So that's part of our investigation, is finding out who the original creditor was, and when they defaulted on it, what the amount was when they defaulted. But just to answer your question, yes, it's really to get them into a payment plan that they can afford with their current income, and something that they feel is fair.
And to add to that as well, obviously our goal is to save as much money for our clients as possible, but we take into account the time involved, and sometimes people need us to give them additional time to get themselves situated. So we work within a person's financial situation to try and really improve their quality of life at any stage.
Well, thank you, Frank and Chris, and we will come back and get more in-depth answers in the next segment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Graham.
And I'm Frank Borgese. At our law firm, we understand how stressful dealing with debt issues can be. We also understand that you may not know who to trust to help you resolve these issues properly. Whether you're being contacted by debt collectors, sued by creditors, having your wages garnished, your bank accounts frozen, or have defaulted on your student loans, please call our law firm for help today.
Our overall goal is to improve your quality of life and minimize the stress that debt issues can cause.
We offer extremely affordable rates and payment plan options for all of our clients. Let my partner, Chris Graham, and I do for you what we have done for so many others throughout New York State.
Contact one of our several offices today to set up an appointment and take the first step to resolving your debt-related issue.